welcome to another amazing day at fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. Let's see if the camera, there we go. Hello. I'm here with the wonderful Christian Schmitz and also Jacob Taylor. There's Christian. Christian is a really fantastic, he runs the MBS Plugin, which is a really fantastic plugin that most developers consider vital to their stuff. If you can't do it with FileMaker alone, you can probably do it with MBS, and we're very honored to have him on the show. Real quick, let's talk about our FM training schedule. Monday, we are doing Microsoft Office 365 Authentication with oAuth 2.0 and FileMaker. Last time we had Christian on, we had a lot of questions about oAuth and emails, so he's here to maybe talk about that some and help clarify that for people. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is an all-Nick week. So we're doing advanced search, then we're finishing off on day 3, and then we're starting his next kind of mini-series at 6 days instead of 3. Basically, it's going to be covering FileMaker relationships, everything that Nick wants to share about, which is quite considerable, so it should be entertaining. And then Monday will be an open Q&A. If you've got stuff with MBS that you're doing and you want to know how to do it, let us know. If you've got any sort of basic question, you can pop in and ask Christian, and he will be happy to answer it for you. If you'd like to support the channel, we'd greatly appreciate it. We have the FM Training Annual Subscription Bundle. Is 100+ hours of really high-energy video content. Pretty much it covers all topics about basic FileMaker underneath the sun. If you have no idea to use the platform, or if you're an intermediate level developer who knows a lot but doesn't know everything, we can promise we can teach you something. There's something in this course that you can learn. I promise. And we have had many people come to us go like, oh, this has helped a lot. People who buy this, they've supported the channel. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And now to talk about real quick, monkeybreadsoftware.com. Here we go. You're on version 12.6, correct? Currently? No, version 12.5. No. What version are you on, Christian Schmitz? I'm trying to remember.
For the FileMaker.
For the plugin, sorry.
The plugin is 12.5.
12.5. I don't know why I was thinking 12.6. Probably because 19.6 just came out. But version 12.5 is here for MBS. It's got all sorts of, I don't know how much your Christian is up to. I know it's in the 6,800 section amount of functions that MBS has. It's a lot. What's the specific number? He's pulling it up.
You can always look on the documentation part. It's 6,908 today.
When it hits 7,000, we've got to do a for fun live stream because that's insane. It is one of the only plugins that RCC recommends. We don't recommend a lot of plugins because we don't use them thoroughly. We use this one really thoroughly. It does a lot. It does 6,900. Sorry, it's insane. And Christian is one of the best people for support ever. Like, if you send him an email, be like, hey, does it do this? Or how do I do this? He'll send it back. MBS has insane documentation and all sorts of sample files. Really great. Please get it. Please support him. He's fantastic. I'm going free to hand things over. Christian, what are we doing today?
Well, today we will check how to make oAuth authentication with Microsoft Office 365, because a lot of people run into the problem that Microsoft is trying to get rid of the old SMTP and IMAP plugins with username and password, and they prefer to use oAuth for everything. I usually so far went with creating an app-specific password instead, and that seems to still work for most customers. But on the long term, we may need to do oAuth. So I will share my screen. This one. We'll probably out this stuff. So let's see. The first thing is we got a new example file.
Ooh.
This one here. Yeah, and now the first thing is you need to know all these things here. So for this, you will have to register your own app with Microsoft. So portal Azure. So you have to log in on this portal with your account. And I recently did it for school, and I can use this account for testing. So you have to go to the Azure Active Directory Well, if you don't see it after, let me go back home. So if you don't see this entry here with this little pyramid, you can click here on more services and then find a long list of all the stuff they do. But once you are here on the Azure Active Directory, you can look for app registrations. So, and you may ask, why do we need an app registration? Well, you are signing in with providing basically a public key, and they need to have something to match against, so they have to know your app upfront. So we have here a test app. Let's see, let's go back. So back to the page. So for the Azure Active Directory, we have to copy here the tenant ID. So this ID refers to our account. Let me put it here into the app, into the FileMaker database. So I know I register a new one here. So new registration. And as you see, I turned it into English, so you can actually read something if you're not familiar with Germany.
We
So
much
let's see.
appreciate it.
So just give it a name, or maybe better, FileMaker email sending. Don't delete. So you give it a name. So this should work with accounts. So the person who wants to grant you the permission to send emails must be someone with an account also. And you may account people from the same identity, like the same company, or from others, or from anyone. Let's say, I don't care. I may take a personal account. So the next thing is here, there's a redirect URI. So this is the URL which is contacted about the authentication on success, and we want to catch that. And for that reason, we use localhost. Yeah, let's see. So we say, let's see what's available. Something like web. I think it's web here, and the URL. No quote. So the plugin will register a webhook with the MBS plugin to listen on a port number. You can choose it, but I, for this example, just take 999. So we know there's a webhook listening on this port number on the local machine. So when the website is running in the web viewer to authenticate, contact the plugin to tell us our credentials to use for the login. So let's see. Register.
And so
What does it say?
the benefit here is you have no requirement on like a webhook URL on the server or that kind of stuff, correct? So you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it totally locally.
We do it locally, yeah, because it's running in a little web viewer, and it can just talk to the webhook without going on the internet, and so we don't need any server setup. So we got an application ID, which is our here client ID. So I copy that. So I will later delete this, so the credentials will be invalid later. So next thing would be, after we have our app registered, we add a secret. So there's a little secret. So create a new one. Description, or my secret, whatever. Expires, and here you can change how long your login is valid. So we want to create identifiers which are maybe 2 years valid. So we don't need to redo this too often. So we got a secret here. let's see, we got a secret and an ID. Okay, I think this is the actual value. Yeah, this is the secret we have here. So, okay. So we have a secret. So what's next? We may do our oAuth actually. So let's try the script here and see if it works. Yeah, allow everything today. So I have to log in again with an account. Oh God, what was my account?
And so this is logging into the email account that you're going to send as in a web viewer.
Yeah. So I'm logging in here with an account, and I need to copy and paste the password so you don't see it. And then here it's asking me, this application would like to do things like access or send emails from your mailbox, view basic profile, maintain access data you may give them access to. Okay. So it asks for a couple of things, and depending on what the script would ask for, we would ask for permissions for IMAP account or for SMTP or for other things. Let's check later. And we got a token. So the basic thing here is working already. So this is, we'll go through it later when we check the scripts, but we got a token. The token is very long. And now let's say we want to send an email. So let's say I put from support at monkeybreadsoftware.de. So I try to send an email, send email, and let's see what happens. So authentication successful, yeah. So, and now I can check for mail on my phone here maybe. Let's go on the scripts.
Yeah. So as I say, so I guess we start with the webhook, right? We have the Azure account set up. We've got, which email are we sending from, which email are we sending to, and then finally, the hidden part of that is the token. Not how did we get it? We know that comes from Microsoft, but how do we get it into Monkey Bread? How does the plugin deal with it?
So we have here a script to start authentication. So is empty. So if we don't have a webhook yet, because like I'm debugging this script, so I may accidentally create a webhook and not delete it. So we check for that. So we create a new one. We tell it to listen on port 999. So you can use whatever port number you like, but since we put in the localhost 999 address on the registration for the app, we have to keep that port number now. We define which script to trigger when an answer is coming in. We also provide here a standard answer for the web viewer. So after you click the button to grant the permission, the request is sent to the webhook, and the webhook can send back an answer, which is then displayed in the web viewer. So technically, we can here define the answer to show in the web viewer. I just put in a little HTML with text that the request arrived. And so we tell the webhook to automatically answer every incoming call with that HTML.
So we could, if we were going to try to, we could like style up a Monkey Bread software or an RCC, thank you for signing in web page or something like that.
Yeah, you could do that. The idea here is that the webhook does the answering right away. So we are not depending on FileMaker answering the script quickly enough, because otherwise the connection would time out. That's something we use in other things, like for triggering scripts and sending back the result. there we would not do the auto answer. Okay, next thing is we have to build the URL for the login. So for the URL, we need a client ID, and I use here trim because people like to copy spaces or new lines. We have our redirect URL, which needs to be URL encoded. So this slashes get encoded as %2f, for example. We have here the building of the URL. Let's take a look. So it's login microsoftonline.com with the tenant ID. So Microsoft knows which app is it. Then we ask for oAuth authorization. We ask for code. We ask for scope, which defines what we want to access. The redirect URL will send the answer. And our client ID, so it knows who we are, no? Which app, and this is which company. The scope. So this is the scope we use. The scope is here asking just for SMTP send. You can also add things like here, profile, offline access. So if you need like IMAP, you would add this part to the scope and say, I need SMTP and IMAP. For some reason, it showed earlier in the login, it showed here this other entries too. So we saw that it showed that we asked for seeing the profile, but we actually didn't have that. Maybe that happens because I granted it before. Because I tried this before, so we'll see. So next thing is the user agent. So on macOS, this is set custom user agent. There's a function to tell the web viewer to send this string to the web server to identify which browser is used. If you don't set this, the Microsoft website may say that your browser is too old, unsupported, whatever. So we just claim this is some Safari version from recently. It's actually saying Intel here, but this is an M1. So it doesn't matter. It's just for their statistics, whatever. So we just claim we are on Intel Safari on an older macOS version. Next is we load this custom URL into the web viewer. And I use load URL here because I had problems with the function in FileMaker, the script step, because the script step likes to encode the URL. So you can do it with a plugin, you can do it with FileMaker script step, doesn't matter, as long as you don't encode the URL. Set web viewer. Let's just see. So here, the checkbox is missing. So here should normally be a checkbox. I don't know why it's not here, but there's a checkbox to encode the URL. So spaces are changed to, I don't see the checkbox right now. I'm not sure why it's missing, but if it's encoding the things which are encoded already, you have double encoding, and then it doesn't work. So no idea why it's not showing the encode option there. Okay, so the web view is loading. Then we can do our login, and the next thing we get is the webhook. So the webhook gets called. The parameter to the script is always the ID for the web request. So you know for which request you're called, because you could have several requests in a queue waiting to be processed by your scripts. Or the plugin can accept several connections, and you may just check which one is the one you want. The scripts get called one after the other, and so you can process them all later. So we get the ID for the request, then we ask for the URL components. So the plugin can parse the URL for you and give you the components. Do we have it? So here's a So
And that's
let's
like
see.
that's things like the domain. What is the path? What are different arguments that come after?
Here you see our URL. No, that is not. Let's like here. So we get back the URL like this. This is what we get back from after allowing access. So the plugin parses this and gives us things like here, the schema is HTTP, the port, the parse, the query, and all these query parameters are also decoded and then separated here, code, state, session state. So here is the code, and this is our code. And if that code would have any special characters, they would be encoded in the URL. So I don't need in my script to split the URL myself because the plugin can do that for me. So I ask it for these components and get it split. And I can show that in the field. Next thing is I ask for the raw data and also show that for debugging here. Then we got our components with the code, and so we can free the request from memory and also stop the webhook. And next thing we do is we load a blank URL into the web viewer, so the login dialog for Microsoft disappears, or our answer if we send one. So next thing is the script to query the token. Because the plugin parses us the URL components into a JSON, we can use the JSON functions here from FileMaker to just grab the parameters and grab the code and state and session state, and then we can work with the variables here. If we got a code, we will do a little bit math here. So first we get our values again for the tenant, so which company, which app, and the app secret. And by providing the app secret to the Microsoft server, we can prove that we are actually the person to actually get the code. So we built an URL again. This time it's not authorized, but a token request. We built again a URL. So putting it all together here. And then we make a curl query with the plugin to send the special data field to the URL. And then the Microsoft server will decide whether it likes it and gives us code 200. And if it likes it, we can then pick the token from the result with the next script. So we get back a JSON, and we can pick all the values in the JSON, like the access token and as well as the expiration date, and put that in a field. Now we have an access token. And it should be valid for 2 years.
And then we can send email.
Did we get any questions?
We only got one from David Angel, which Jacob answered, but I'll kind of say it out loud anyway. I can create a Gmail email as an Azure AD account. Jacob,
let me
I answered, I think yes. They wouldn't be the same thing. So I think the example is like if I used my personal Gmail as a login for an Azure AD, like the username, it wouldn't be the same account, right? Those are different email providers, but I think in a very literal sense, you could like create a new user inside of an Azure tenant that was, the username as a Gmail address, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So
okay, that would make sense to just use the email address as a login for your new Azure account here.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing would be to send an email. So you did a lot of work to get the token. Now you need to send an email. You can do that with MBS Plugin, of course. So we have a function to create a new blank email, and then you fill in things like the form address, some plain text, maybe some HTML text, a subject line, maybe some other headers. It would be good to add a receiver, someone to get the email, maybe a BCC or CC address. SMTP server is always smtpoffice365.com. Username is your email address. And then we tell the plugin to make a new curl session to actually send the email. So curl is for delivery. Send mail functions are for building an email. This prepare curl function here passes the email to the curl session. Sets a couple of options like the server and the username. The port number is 587 for this specific mail server. So if you adapt this code for something else, you would have to change that maybe. We ask for encryption required. We ask for TLS version 1.2 or newer. And let's see here in the debug log. It's using 1.3, yeah. So if you have a certificate file for their mail server, you can use that, but otherwise we just turn it off here so we don't check the certificate. But if you want to be more secure, you should do that. So next thing is we pass our token. So there's an option oAuth to bearer. Well, just takes a token. If you have a certificate file, you can of course specify it here and then tell curl to verify the host, extended verification and peer. So if you have the certificate file, you can store it. Then we perform. This will do the actual transfer, and after the transfer, we check usually the result. Should be okay, and not any error message like invalid login. And then you can get the debug log, which helps us to find problems. Let's take a look what's happening. So the debug log always shows which MBS version, which curl version, which FileMaker version, and the platform. So I have a little bit less trouble on helping people. Like if this is an old version, or this is an old version, or this is an old version, then we may have the reason right away. So we connect here, and this is using IPv6 to get the server. On the port 587, Microsoft is here answering the call. Mail service ready. So we say hello. The mail server answers and tells its capabilities. So this server can do a lot of things. Like it can do start TLS, so it can upgrade our unencrypted connection to an encrypted one. So we tell it to do so. And then there is a little discussion here. Our client tells hello, so we can do 1.3. The server says, well, that's fine with me. We can decide on the cipher, like this combination here between an encryption algorithm and a hash algorithm, a key, a way to get the key, and another hash algorithm. There's an exchange for the certificate here, and when everything is fine, encryption is established, and we are communicating encrypted, and we see here the details from the certificate. And so if you stored the certificate, curl would actually compare those if they are the same. So next thing, so we are talking encrypted. The server also tells us what it allows to do. And now once we are encrypted, we see here the auth entries, which are missing above. So without encryption, the server will not take a password. But once you are encrypted, you have login and oAuth. So login is using username and password. And I told you that an app-specific password may do it until Microsoft decides to disable it too. And oAuth also allowed. This server can also do UTF-8 SMTP and 8-bit. Well, we're not using it, I think. So we pass our token, and you see it's really long. Then here, the most important thing, authentication successful. So we made it. Mail form address, a mail to address, some data, and when we are finished, this is what curl prints, and then the server acknowledge that we are done. So it tells us okay and some ID, and then this email is queued for delivery. And if the spam check doesn't delete our email, it should be delivered. Okay, let's take a look on my blog. I recently wrote a question and answer thing for this. Yeah, follow on. So we had a few people asking questions before. So like with the scope, if I only need SMTP, I use this one. If I use IMAP and SMTP, I would put in a bigger scope. So if you can use the same token and same way of accessing emails also for here for IMAP. Then we had a couple of problems, like if you get a message like this, your admin may have to enable SMTP for your account, because by default it's off. So you can use you may be able to use your account with Outlook, because Outlook can use the HTTP interface and use a web service to directly talk to the Microsoft server. But if you want to use SMTP protocol, your admin may need to allow that.
Is that because it allows IMAP by default for client access and not SMTP and POP? Maybe.
Well, I saw, well, I had a client who tried our example, and he had to go to a checkbox where you had a couple of things to allow, and SMTP was not on. I don't know where this was, but you can Google for this problem.
Yeah.
And you probably find it.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you have it turned off, you have to turn it back on again. I wonder if that's what they're doing. It's like, no, you guys are using IMAP now. Don't use SMTP and POP because they're old. But
the next thing is there was a different error message, which basically said the same. You're not allowed to. And for one forum thread, I found the answer was uncheck the checkbox and check it again. Amazing. So the next thing was encryption trouble. So you can use the plugin. There was a user with an older plugin, and the older plugin didn't do TSL 1.3 or 1.2, and so the server declined. Also, you must be careful that if you have an URL with IMAP S or SMTP S, to use the right combination. So for SMTP, it's without the S, because Office 365 likes to talk in plain text first and then upgrade. But for IMAP, they want to use IMAP S protocol because they want to talk encrypted from the first packet on. So, and of course, we also had a client with a firewall. So you need to actually open some ports if you want. So it's amazing. A lot of companies have all different kinds of ports blocked, but 587 was our port here for SMTP, so you have to open that. And then here's a successful request.
And that's outgoing.
Outgoing, yeah.
I had a couple clients say, hey, I need to open this up on my firewall. And so they opened, I think it was port 587 from the outside into their server. And I got to deliver the great news, which is that they don't need that. And they can close it up real quick because the firewall rule that they needed was the opposite direction, which is from the FileMaker server out to the internet. You will probably know this or run into it very quickly if you have a client that does really stringent network filtering of some kind.
So I just wanted to show you, if you use our IMAP example for your IMAP users, you can just go on the central script here to set up a curl, and you disable the password line, and you add the BIRA token line, and then you put in your token there, and then you would use IMAP.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Does using MBS plugin to send email in this way make it easier to do HTML emails?
Oh, HTML, yeah, you can use our plugin for HTML emails.
Okay.
So for HTML emails,
I know that's one of the like weaknesses of the built-in FileMaker email process outside of oAuth and all this other stuff is we have pretty basic plain text stuff going on.
So if you build your email, you usually call the set plain text function. And if you want the HTML email, you call the set HTML text function, and you pass your HTML text.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, if you want to have some inline graphics, you must do a little bit more. So this HTML here contains some. Make a new document. So your HTML email may contain some SID link. So we have an image attribute here. So there's an image with a width and a height, and it has a source, and the source has this content ID prefix, and then maybe some UID in this case to make it unique, but that's actually not needed. So just a name would be enough to identify which thing to use from the attachments to show at this place in the HTML. And for that, we have here some attachments prepared with pictures with those names. And now we go to the script where we add them. So for the plugin here, we use the function add attachment container. And in this case, oops, you see we pass in the container, the name, the memo type. You can leave the type empty and the plugin will pick it automatically. And then the identifier, which, as I said, the name would be enough. The UID makes sure that if your user adds two pictures with the same name, that we can give everyone a different UID if you want that. But that's it. And if you provide an attachment with a content ID, the plugin will put it in a different part of the email, so it doesn't show us normal attachment.
Cool. We've got a question kind of related to this actually on Twitch. Can you send plain and HTML emails so email clients that don't accept HTML will have something to fall over to?
Yeah. So if I click here the build email button, you see that we have here the assembled email, and you see there is the plain text, and here is the HTML. Especially for a few emails we send, we put the nice email for the user in the HTML part, but then in the plain text, we put just a few lines on the top, which is what the iPhone shows you as a preview of the email if you look on the list of emails. So like if you look the email list on your iPhone in the Mail app, it will show you the plain text as a preview text. So it may be good to put a short text version in there, so it shows up in the list. But all the users see actually the HTML if they open the email. which sadly may be used by spammers to also trick you into opening new, because they can put different texts in there.
I'm one of those awful people that has an email client that does text only.
Well, I used to do that for a lot of years.
I had a tech support thing over the weekend caused by that, because someone sent out an email and they had of course, right, they have a beautiful HTML and images email that was sent out to everybody, customized for all the, it's got the name and different details in it, all that stuff. And their plain text version did not. And I was
okay. If you want to learn more, we have here some steps from Microsoft to register your application and what to pick. So you get your tenant and your web API registration. And I would expect that somewhere here you find the flow diagram for this.
To answer David Angel's question, where can I find a flowchart diagram for oAuth?
Yeah. Let me Google for you. Since there are a couple of different versions of that, you would have to decide whether this is actually the type of.
Yeah. If it's the right kind of oAuth.
Yeah.
It's one of the real challenges with oAuth, is because it's not a technical standard that tells you this is how you do everything. Like, like a lot of technical standards are, this number needs to be 7 bytes long, and it's oAuth is like, that's not what it does. It teaches you it writes out a structure for how these things work. And then different companies have built an authorization system within it. And so they are generally compatible with each other, but there's a lot of little differences, which is why it ends up being a new thing for each company that you work with, because they're not all the same at all. They're close. They follow the same general structure and idea, but
seems we're all. I'm gonna let Kyle Williams finishing typing, but I don't see any other questions.
Maybe everyone is buying Christmas presents.
Also possible. We're heading into that time. Or like the cold has gotten to them, they become extra sleepy. That definitely happens. With that being said, you got anything else you want to talk about, Christian? Or are you good?
Go buy Christian's plugin.
You should. It does a lot.
Yes, please. Get a trial license. So if you don't have any questions, see you next Monday.
Yes. And if you guys have any question about MBS at all, like even if like, how do I install it? We'll answer them there. Please collect them. Or if you got like, I want to know if MBS can do this, please show up.
So.
Yes, no, please buy it. It's great. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Christian. We greatly appreciate you doing this. And thank you again, Jacob, for asking the questions I couldn't, because I sure could not have asked some of the great questions you did. So have a good one, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.